Okay, good evening, everybody. This is October 11th, and we're going to call the city council meeting, regular city council meeting, into service right now at 7 o'clock. We'll start off with roll call. Council position number 1, Joe Armand.
I am here.
Council position number 2, David Budrus.
Present.
Council position number 3, Stephen Hardy.
Present.
Council position number 4, Chris Moritz.
Here.
And council position number 5, Levi Shank. Not here at the moment. So, welcome everybody. The next thing we'd like to do is recognize our visitors. Please state your name so the clerk can put you on our list.
My name is Marcy Powell, and I am the director of Wellington County Park.
Thank you, Margie.
Crawford. Roy. Resident.
Thank you, Troy.
Frank Fleming. Resident.
Frank, good to see you here. All right. Next thing we'd like to do is continue on to approval of the minutes for the September 27th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
So we've got a motion on the floor from Stephen and seconded by Joe. Discussion?
I'm good.
Chris, good?
Good to
Okay.
go.
So we've got two men down there reading the minutes at the moment.
Yeah, I'm
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay?
Good enough for me.
Okay. Any further discussion on the minutes from the 27th? All in favor of accepting the minutes as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Thank you, council. Carries 4. Let me see, we got one's not here, that's gonna be 4-0, 4-0-0, excuse me. Next thing on the agenda is to approve the new claims.
So moved.
Got a motion by Stephen Hardy to approve, or excuse me, to accept the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by David Budrus. Discussion.
Very quickly, the law enforcement services, that looks like 2 months, or is that this right there?
No, I believe those are a quarter, Joe.
Those are quarters?
Yeah?
Okay. Oh, okay, but it looks like we're playing catch up on 2 quarters?
Yes.
Okay.
Evening, Levi.
How are you, sir?
The water system plan, is that progressing?
Is it progressing?
Yeah.
Is this in relation to the,
TDNH
Claims?
A19, yeah,
well, that's just a claim that they have.
but we're not getting closer to seeing what we're paying for?
I would say no at this moment. They're still in the process of producing a water system plan.
Okay.
Do you want to talk further about that, or it's not relevant to this, but I've got information
I mean, if it's just individual information, you can catch me up. Unless the council, if you think
Doesn't-
it's relevant for the council as a
relevant
whole.
for the council. Last meeting, he is targeting to be complete in May, in 24.
Okay.
which is within the time limit allowed.
And once
Yeah.
that water system plan is in place, that's gonna further us, enable us to go for grants, is that the one we're talking about?
I understand that becomes a working document that you have to have to,
Prerequisite for the
Yeah.
grants, okay.
Did we get a U-Haul for getting the cubicles?
No. We got a U-Haul to go get 20 bags, 50-pound bags of patch for the roads, and to go get 9 rolls of sod. So it was a little over 2,000 pounds for the one order in this thing. We did not have a vehicle
Right. Where did we put the sod?
in the front of the van. It was a cargo van.
Well, I know. Where was it?
Where's the sod go?
You fell into that one.
At the cemetery.
Okay.
What you
Appreciate
want to
the
know is the
clarification.
sod
Where did
was
you use
purchased
it,
for
right?
what?
But I'm happy to hear that it fit in
Yeah.
the van.
The problem was we had several things to pick up,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have a vehicle heavy enough to pick up both of those.
I go to
And to
Spokane.
waste
Yep.
4 or 5 hours of one of our public works people. In fact, there's only one who's capable of driving that vehicle, so
No, makes sense.
that was the reason.
I'm good.
Further discussion? All in favor of accepting the claims as written signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, council. Next on the agenda, to accept the check register, to check the check register from September and approve the payroll.
It's in there.
Should have 2 pages there for the check register and the payroll.
Unless I'm,
You didn't get it
yeah, I
either?
don't see it in the email.
Yeah, it wasn't on the email, but we have a hard copy right here.
Okay,
It's actually mislabeled.
Okay.
At least on mine, when I pull it up, I get the,
it's,
I
you
get
did,
ordinance 248.
well, that's the,
Don't
one of
have
the
that.
things.
I don't,
I'd have to check and
I
get.
don't have any of them. No.
It's in paper form
No,
here on the
that's
table.
that's an exception.
Did you find it? If you didn't, there's a copy right there.
Oh, payroll's at the top of the check. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been really big this time. I made one copy.
Move to approve.
Second.
So we got a motion on the floor to approve the payroll. The check register is there for your visual.
Mhm.
For viewing pleasure.
Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the check register and the payroll as written there, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, council. So I'm going to change something up here on your agenda because we have a guest here tonight. And I told her I would get her first on the list so that she doesn't have to sit through the whole meeting before she's able to leave. And this is in regards to our co-location facility. As I think most of you all know, we're going to designate 1/2 of our lab down at the wastewater treatment plant as our co-location facility for the hardware being put in there to support the fiber optic. Did I send all this out to all of you?
Which,
Yes. I think,
Oh,
yes.
yes, yes.
Okay. So you may see there was a couple things that our attorney was questioned us whether we, and in his opinion, but he left this up to us. If we're happy with some of these things, then we would want to accept the county's agreement here with a, excuse me, give me just a second here.
Is
To
there
ex-
original documents on, oh, wait a minute.
I have both here, the original lease agreement document and the new one. And I think the new one does also, the first one has blue lines going through it
Do you have that one?
that highlights the changes.
I-
Did those come through?
No.
I see an email going back and forth between you and David Bingaman, and it outlines his concerns with the new document, but I don't see a full text of the new document.
And then Margie's correspondence
I don't have that.
on the very bottom. We'll scroll all the way.
Oh, all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. it's
That's
down. Mhm.
just a. Well, I guess the only question I have, or one of the many questions, is what's the term? Are we leasing it to the county, or
We are leasing it and the county is offered to pay all of the heat or all of the PUD charges for the building, which means ours and theirs. So their heat and cooling will obviously take more power than our side of the building. It will be a temperature controlled facility, not only heated but cooled and kept, and I don't know how accurate of a temperature. I'm not sure about that electronically, but, and they'll take care of the generator, take care of all of it. And they were proposing that that be the cost of the building. So I went and talked to a couple of the other mayors here over the last couple of weeks and found out that some of them were going to lease their facilities for $1 a year. In other words, this is a situation where we're trying to provide all of the people in the town of Harrington with the ability to have fiber optic. And this is our little part, or to have broadband. So we're trying to make that capability for everybody to have it, and all of the cities provide a place to store this equipment. This happens to be the one that we're given, so I don't see it as an issue to making lots of money as far as a lease agreement. The lease agreement to me is more about what we're trying to accomplish than it is about a money situation.
my only concern was an ownership concern. The money issue, as far as a lease, that was not an issue. And going forward, the ownership of it, like 5-10 years from now, we need to expand or do something required, imposed on us from the state for our sewer plant operations. Will this interfere with that in any
Well, the building's gonna be there whether
way?
we're using it or anybody's using it.
But for space or any foreseeable, does it tie the city's hands in any way in the future for operations at the wastewater plant?
I don't think it ties our hands. I think when I looked at this whole thing, I looked at the fact that if we were giving away a 10 by 12 square foot area, 120 square feet, if we needed that 120 square feet in the future, in the next 25 years, what would it cost us to replace the facility? That's the only thing I look at it as far as. So at the present time, we're not using it. We used it for storing things that didn't need to be stored in there. So I don't see us, I don't see us needing it for specific storage. So I don't think it's gonna hurt us at the present time. As far as the footprint, it's theirs. So I don't think that would bother us, Davis, as far
No,
as expanding.
no,
Expanding?
I don't, that doesn't bother me at all, but, if there's a time, if the state, Department of Ecology comes back and says, you need to do this, that, and something else, and we need that for our own computers or I'm not really sure what's all in there. Maybe Troy could later explain, or you can. But if there's more electronics or more monitoring or whatever, of storage of a boat for swimming, whatever out there, like they used to have to do, is the county, they're there to stay forever, or is it?
I think I might have to
Contingency.
ask that question of Margie, but I think we're signing a lease agreement for 25 years.
Okay.
Is that what I saw here? Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
And we couldn't take it back. I think that would be a bad situation.
well,
Can I talk a little bit about
Yep.
the facility and what needs to be in there for the for? And I can say that one of the reasons that we tried to work with cities is because we do consider this to be a new utility. And we recognize utilities have to be kept secure. Sure.
That will help for the recording.
Okay.
YouTube and being.
We recognize that security is important for utilities, and I think we would work with you on whatever might
Right.
come up and try to make everything work for everyone. What we are looking at is, what we need the building for is a place to bring the county's fiber to meet with the ISPs who would be providing service to the residents of Harrington. We need to have a spot in every city where those ISPs can hook up their coordinates with people that they would be contracting with to provide internet service. Okay? So that's what it is. We need one in every city. And that half of the building, the only people who would be there would be the ISPs, internet service providers, and they are all going to have comprehensive agreements with the county before they're ever even out selling opportunities to be on the fiber. We'll have agreements in place, and they are going to have insurance. They'll have
so that's,
general liability, excuse me, general liability, workman's comp, and comprehensive automobile liability, so they'll be totally insured, as will the county. The only other people that would be there would be if there was a maintenance issue or something like that, or something had to be fixed. I would probably be going there occasionally to make sure that it was kept clean and that everything looks good, looks normal like it should. And then, most importantly, it's going to be monitored 24/7 by a remote management team. NOAANET is going to do that, and not even ISPs. No one will go in there without having to first contact that management team and get a code to be able to be let in. So nobody will be in there that we don't know who's in there. And we don't want anybody in there that we don't know. I mean, it's
So-
just
so-
like,
this is the sole purpose for the 25-year lease, right?
yes,
Is strictly the cable or the
yes.
internet.
It's to house
It is.
electronic equipment, David. There'll be racks in there with the servers on them is all they are.
Mhm.
And a bunch
And
of
those will be
little-
monitored, power will be monitored, temperature will be monitored, it will all be monitored remotely. And NOAANET has an invested interest too, because we're using their backbone fiber for the county's network. So,
So
and they're
every,
very experienced.
so every city in the county, or city or town in the county has one of these buildings.
Oh,
It's going-
location.
It's going to have to
Oh,
happen,
yeah.
yes. Because, and it'll only be for their city.
Right,
Yours will only be for Harrington and the ISPs who are serving Harrington, yeah.
okay.
I know it's unusual, it's new to all of us, and,
The equivalent of the CenturyLink building over there.
Okay.
yeah, good analogy.
Margie?
Yes.
Is it true there's a camera there that you'll have to face the camera before you go in and while you're entering with the keypad?
I don't know.
Okay.
Did you hear that though?
Well, I thought that was one of your people or one of the people that we talked to out said there would be a camera, but I'm just verifying that in front of the group now.
I wouldn't be
There is a
surprised. I
keypad.
would think there would be.
And they'll have to have a number to punch in that they would only get from you.
Right, from knowing it.
Yes.
From,
We have
yes.
no access to that facility, that side of our building once this was taking place.
Unless
unless we
you
got
want to
permit.
access it, yeah, you
Yes.
could.
Do you have any
You
questions on
absolutely could. I mean, you
these
could
four
go, or we
questions
could
that
say
they
the
might
mayor's
have?
gonna come down and check things out, because it is your property.
I've been in a couple
mean, it
of them
looks
and I
like
have
they
no
already
need to be in
addressed
there.
one of them.
So
I
we
think
would be
3 of them.
making,
How about number one?
you
Sole
should have at the
threshold
end of your
increase.
agreement, it shows what the improvements are gonna be, that are gonna be made. Is that, yeah, you've got it on the very back page. Those are the improvements that will be made. $83,000. Anything that's a fixture that's in there permanently will become part of Harrington's building. I think that's about it. The advantage is that if
Yes,
an
that's it.
ISP does not have to build their own infrastructure to serve an area, that it's more affordable for them. And we have actually had 11 ISPs
Mhm.
interested, ask for information on the network. I know we've been working on trying to get better broadband in this county since 2011 when NoaNet came to town. And we haven't had 11 ISPs interested over 13 years. 11 years, however many years that is. So it's because they don't have to invest so much. And so that makes a low population rural area like ours more appealing, more doable for them. So, and that's the whole idea to the network, is just to try to get that.
So just so I know,
Interest.
to wrap my head around this a little bit, is the ISP provide, the internet service
Internet
providers,
Mhm.
is the quality of service dependent on the quality of the ISPs? We put all this in, could they still give us lackluster service?
Well, one thing is that the grant that pays for this has a minimum that they have to be able to provide you. And this grant is, they have it to have a minimum gig up and gig down available to customers. You don't have to sign up for that much if you don't want to. You can sign up for 25 upload and 10 download if you want. And I think that's the lowest it will be.
So
But-
many of them, as cable companies and providers, bait and switch. You know, get you hooked on it, signed up, and then pretty soon, it's not so fast anymore, you know? And you mentioned like 11 providers who are after it. And is it relevant to the quality of those ISPs, of the service we're getting? And you mentioned that we have a contract, or there's an agreement that they're gonna provide this. They have to by contract, right? Does that make
So-
sense?
You will be contracting, you will be signing up with an ISP.
Mhm.
That ISP will have the ability to give you super fast internet to your home. If you happen to sign up with an ISP that lets you down, get rid of them and get a new one.
Okay.
You can do that. They have the equipment is not theirs, it's the county's. So, we hope that by bringing some competition to the game, that we'll get better service for less money. Because they'll be investing less money. I mean, we really do. Has anybody been following our little ad in the Lincoln Advertiser?
Sometimes.
Levi has. I work with his wife every week to put those out. last week's was about what open access internet is. And it's open access if the owners aren't the ISP. And Lincoln County is not gonna be selling internet service. We're providing the network to get providers in here. And you will have the upper hand because you already know you can get a strand of fiber directly to your home. And like I said, if you get an internet provider and all of a sudden it does seem like your stuff's slowing down, you can know that it shouldn't be happening.
Are you
And
talking
could-
individually you can do that, or as a collective group, town people? You change-
Individually.
Okay,
Individually, the network is built so that every home in this town, if they want, can have a strand of fiber directly to their home. Fastest available as a residential product right now. And then you can have that strand feed 25, 10, I'm pretty sure is the absolute lowest they can go. Nobody on this network can go like 10 up and 3 down, like you may be used to getting if you're on copper.
yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll have different levels where you can go all the way up to 1 gig up and 1 gig down, and that's super fast. Faster than I've ever done.
So a lot of this, the service depends on, it's price dependent. The more you pay, the better service type thing?
Not
Yeah,
better service,
Or better,
faster. Faster internet, yeah. But it's still gonna be faster because it's gonna be directly to your home.
Okay.
So, out of 11 people that have asked for information, say 5 of them come on. That's still 5 internet providers. 5 internet providers that are competing with each other and to get your business. And I think they'll try a little harder because they're not having to invest in infrastructure. They're gonna lease a fiber line, $20 per fiber line, and pay a power fee to have their equipment in that cola. It's pretty amazing, really, and it would never have happened if the EDC hadn't applied for all those grants and gotten them. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, thank you, Margie.
You're welcome. I hope that helped.
It did, it did.
As far as the lease agreement, I saw that your attorney did say it looks like most of the previous issues were not addressed, and they were addressed, and so I'm wondering, do you want me to go through those and identify them in the document for you?
You did pretty good. Some of it's already addressed, but I have a question.
Okay.
It's question number 4. You know, Section 9 has issues of gifting of public funds. Where does that come from? How does that fit into this?
Well, that's what we're talking about. Consider what in the agreement is consideration for letting us use the building.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are hoping that you will let us use the building, if we will pay the power, and then some of the improvements will also benefit the town, like the battery backup. If you have an outage, your lab will continue running.
Kind of a trade-off is what you're saying.
It is.
Yeah,
In order for us to have a place to be able to make this all happen.
okay.
I've been asked, why don't you just buy a place, and we kind of looked at that, but to buy property and build something in every town is not cost effective and difficult, would be difficult to do in some towns.
Have you put it in any businesses? Didn't Harrington have that at one time? They put something in, some of that computer jive in one of the businesses?
For the downtown
Okay.
project.
And that would just probably encumber the business, I could see that being a nightmare.
I think the stability of a municipality is a lot more appealing to us because we'll be here in 25 years.
Oh, I hope.
You younger folks. there's just so many similarities. It just makes sense to us to do it this way. And if we need to, we would find another avenue.
Okay, well, that's,
But one of the things that will benefit is that the battery backup will take care of the whole building in a power outage, because we did talk to Avista. They don't like putting 2 meters on a small building. That was a question we had for several of them, so that's why we would like to pay the entire power bill, because otherwise it's just going to be difficult to split. But we're going to also replace the power panel with a new 200 amp panel and with a locking breaker, and take down the garage door and wall that in and put in a door, and then everything else you see on that list. Some of that is electronic parts and some of it is for improvements. They put what is called a mini split that does both air conditioning and heating to make sure that it stays at the right temperature, and I'm going to keep trying for that for the other side.
probably the
personally,
heat
but
thing's more of a concern, isn't it? The heat would be more of a concern.
Heat from the equipment, yeah.
Yes.
And in the dead of winter, then the
Yeah.
cold could be.
Yeah.
The biggest concern is security. We need to know that nobody else is going in there. I personally feel really good knowing that it's Noanet, because they've been doing this for years and are probably the most experienced entity to do that. And they are not a private business. They are a group of electrical PUDs that did the same thing we just did, but 10, 11 years ago, when instead of a COVID funding being available, it was after the recession. And they got money to build fiber through Lincoln County, through a lot of eastern Washington counties. And in fact, it's at the old city hall where they have a handhold there. And I think we couldn't have a better person watching out for this security than that group. But as far as your new water system, anything that we can do to help you make that a success. I'm very familiar with that project, and we should have great internet for all of their electronics at the new project.
This looks like it's about a third. Your space we use is about a third of the size of the building.
It's 10 by 8.
Possibly, yes, it's not half. The other side is bigger than this.
And it's not like we're occupying the lab daily. For
One
hours on
Few hours a week, present time. There's a bathroom in there, the lab in there, and the room where the power box is.
Is
They
there-
mentioned a locking breaker. I asked the electrical contractor how he would secure their side of the building so that nobody from our side could ever turn their power off. And he said they could install a locking breaker. So that if anybody got switch happy, which people do in breaker boxes, they couldn't turn off the fiber optic side of the power. It's gonna be locked. I asked Margie if the county would possibly put in a second mini split in the other side of the building. That would help keep their building a consistent temperature also. We could monitor the temperature on our side and keep it consistent so that whatever heat transferred through the wall there we would be good neighbors. And she said she would look into that. I didn't get an answer on that yet.
What do we currently have, Mr. Mayor? What is it, electric heat or something?
There is an electric heater hanging in there, and there is an air conditioning unit that hasn't worked for,
Long time.
well, Scotty said at least a couple of years, so that means upwards of 2 decades. Yeah, it is. He said it was about an $8,000 unit if we wanted to replace it. That was at the last
What,
time.
is it, it's
It's,
central
it's an
AC?
air conditioning and a heater unit, so some kind of a little heat pump. It's,
Okay.
hasn't worked for many years.
So I'm gonna work on that.
My only concern, I just honestly, was if this would ever interfere with our requirements and obligations from the treatment plant. And that's where I was coming from. I think it's great, all this stuff, but how will we deal with it? Can we, collectively, can we foresee any issues going forward? Requirements that, that we can't do that because the county's in here and we're going to have to build another building, stuff happens, if it's up to me, we just leave it alone and never touch it and everything works and everybody's fine. But all these requirements of the ecology that we all know, they're always coming up with something. So that was where I was coming from on this whole issue. Other than that, it sounds fine.
With regard to that, I think what I've heard is that a lot of what Ecology may be asking for is going to be technology-based. And it's like the module that you're saying probably needs to be replaced now. Physically, they're not that large. They're getting smaller and more efficient. So.
So we don't foresee any negatives going forward in the next 25 years, or next 5 years.
Unless we triple our population.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm done. Thank you very
Could
much,
ask
Margie.
them,
What's that?
could ask Ecology, I mean,
Well, I don't think they
the
know what's
woman
going
in
on
charge of
either,
the project.
honestly.
So I have a collection of questions here. One, because of what the agenda, this is not anything we can vote on tonight anyway, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. What is the status of the text in black? Have we approved, I just want to clarify for the record, have we approved this before and we're approving changes, or
No.
this is
We have
changes
just gone,
to
we
an
have gone
unapproved?
through this, and each time I've submitted this to
Okay.
our city attorney, and he's gone through and made a list of issues
Yeah.
that he had.
Okay, but nothing in this document is currently ratified by the council.
That's correct.
Okay.
The black text is the template that we started with.
Yeah. For the building, I don't believe I've been in there before. What is the status of insulation in that building?
I couldn't answer that question for you.
I would think that if there's a concern generally about the heating and cooling capabilities of it, it could very well be an uninsulated building, and I did not see insulation listed as an item here, and so perhaps to lower the load on whatever units put in there. Like if it's uninsulated walls, I would expect that you wouldn't want to be using uninsulated walls in the middle of a 105-degree summer with a 200 amp service working on a bunch of server racks in there. So I would maybe suggest taking a look at insulation, and if the building is insulated, that would make it more practical than perhaps to have the entire building run off of one HVAC unit. But the last thing is a question for Margie. So have the contracts with the ISPs been drawn up yet, or the
No.
template that they're going to use?
Oh, yes. The agreements,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's been finalized.
Yep. And we have not signed anybody up yet. It's premature, but ISPs who are interested have been given a copy so they can see. I can provide you with a copy.
I don't need it directly, but I guess so when it comes down to the considerations, obviously the mandate of the council is to benefit our citizens and to make sure that there's an option for fiber is a benefit to our citizens. There's that. To not have to pay for the power for the building in general is a benefit to us. But one of the things that I am considering is that I'm thinking about with this internet that's around the town, I would hope that there would be a way, and maybe it sounds like we're already past that point. I know that months ago when Commissioner Hutzel came and visited us, I mentioned this to him at that point, but It would be nice if there was a consideration given to the municipalities or the requirement that the ISPs, because I understand the county is not a provider, but contractually, the county can set the terms under which the ISP will operate. And I think, because you talk about, well, there will be nice internet available to, for our wastewater treatment plant. Yes, if we pay for another service there. And which is a little bit painful in that the amount of traffic that we would send from a wastewater treatment plant is absolutely minimal, and to pay even the 25 by 10 package is, I guess, the cost of doing business. But if there would be a way in which the ISPs would be required to provide municipality service, that would be one way in which the municipalities would really benefit from this, because we have this location, we have the wastewater treatment plant that'll be right there. And if we don't have all these separate services to try and power, and for us, I think it would only be 2 or maybe a third, but it would really help benefit the city, perhaps more than the power we would save on the building, to have the consideration for internet service. But maybe that ship has sailed.
Who do you get your internet from now?
Local tel?
And is it just a straightforward contract like anybody else's?
No, not because Local-Tel agreed to that. Because when it was RITSCOM, my understanding is there was an agreement that in a consideration for the equipment that is in the base of the old city hall, the city got some degree of a sweetheart consideration for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned at some point the Local-Tel will no longer see it quite the same way. It's been very helpful to us to be able to provide the service to the properties that we need. And I'm not so sure that Local-Tel will see that as applicable to fiber. Like, how long do they continue to honor RITSCOM's original agreement in that? And now if Local-Tel becomes an ISP over the fiber, will they continue to honor that on behalf of the equipment that still sits in that city hall, even though in theory it should be less of a cost overall for them to serve customers off of fiber than it does over the wireless system that they put to the top of the grain elevators. So in general, I'm looking to try and find a way that kind of benefit continues for the city. And I would not doubt
That's a very valid.
I would not doubt
concern.
that any other cities in the county would love to hear that one of the things, not that it is not clearly a benefit to the citizens of our towns without this, but I think it would be an additional indication to the municipalities to say, hey, we're looking out for everyone in Lincoln County with this. We understand that cities have internet needs, especially with all the reporting and everything that's going on, and we don't want you to have to pay connection fees after connection fees to be able to use all the benefit of this wherever it is applicable. Of course, there would have to be stipulations on that for the ISPs to know just how much they could be out from it. A city like Davenport would have more desires for connections than Harrington, so how that gets managed is another kettle of fish. But
I'll look into that because I wonder, we can't sell internet as an open access utility, but I wonder if we can gift.
you wouldn't.
Well, we
you would,
wouldn't. We're not an ISP, so we couldn't even connect
No,
you.
but
we
I would
could.
think your contracts could stipulate that if you are going to operate within our territories, you will provide at least X number of free services to a municipality that requests. Or reduced, or a single rate for multiple connections, because a resident is going to only have their home most of the time. A city is going to have a city shop and a city hall and probably a wastewater treatment plant and a number of other things, and so the cities are going to rack up a number of connections all at once, and most of them are not going to have any significant traffic on them at all. And especially if they're paying, and one of the ways you could make that feasible for them is if they're paying $20 a fiber line, then to say that we'll waive that charge to you on municipal charges, so they're not paying $20 out of pocket. At that point, it just becomes a question of internet traffic, which for most of these locations will be negligible. Like the internet traffic coming from our wastewater treatment plant will hardly registered.
I will look into that,
Thank you.
because you're right, every city would like that, I'm sure.
Any other questions from the council?
I'm good.
Margie, anything else you'd like to add?
I think I've added what I wanted to add. I just want to make sure that you see where we did address the attorney's concerns in the agreement. We make sure that that's clear, because we addressed each one individually. I don't know if have they got the email that I sent you where I detailed out that that's addressed here? That, okay,
Yes.
all right. Then you've got
Anybody that
access
wants
to
any
look into
further
that.
information can get hold of me. It's all available right here. You can look at anything in that file.
There's more signing.
You have more copies of, what you were
I
reading?
didn't bring more copies with me, but I can bring by.
Do you want copies of the lease?
Yeah.
Both of them? The
This
original
one
and
that
this
we're
one?
looking at tonight.
Yep, I'd be glad to.
And you see there's two things yellow on the inside of that highlighted. Okay, those were from the last port that he sent.
Okay,
So the blue were from the draft that was revised and sent back on 9/25, and then the two yellow were additional. And one of them is where the mayor corrected the size of the building for me.
okay. Thank you.
Yes. We do want it to be a win-win, so if you have any concerns at all, please tell me. I don't want anybody going into this with concerns.
Did our attorney get a chance to look at this one right here?
Both of those.
And
And I have emails stapled to the front, his rebuttal on both.
So we'll be looking to make a motion on this in a future meeting?
Yes, I would say next meeting we should move on this. Anybody need any more information, please come by and we'll get you hooked up with whatever you need.
Thank you for giving me a chance to explain everything to you.
Thanks for coming, Margie, we appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
And
well,
you've got my cell phone number if anybody has any questions.
I'll probably be in touch with you the first of the week.
All right, thank you all.
Good night,
You
Margie.
bet. Additions to the agenda.
I have a collection of tech things to discuss.
Okay?
Updates on things that have changed lately. And then I know one aspect you already moved into mayor's comments. so.
Correct. Do you want to go ahead and take care of those right now, Stephen?
Let's put it to the end in case the rest of this goes along.
Okay? So we don't have a specific spot for Public Works tonight, but is there anybody who's got anything in particular they would like to ask of our Public Works person who is here?
How's things going? Any big fires to put out?
Another day in paradise. Water leak up on Lincoln, been repaired. Okay. Still working on the alleyway by your house.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just getting everything winterized.
Is there any way, Troy, that you could put gravel in the alley behind my house because it's down to that muck?
No. Yes, there is.
Everything for a price, dear.
Well, I'll park out front then.
Yeah, if you guys, there's a hole out there, or your alleyway's getting deep, just holler. It doesn't take, most days, it doesn't take long to get alley out there, or gravel out there.
Okay, good.
to
Thank
smooth
you.
it out.
The water,
What's-
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The water leak on Lincoln, is that up, by your house? That's that road, isn't
Right
it?
across, right
Yeah.
above, right between Tom and,
In between
First-
Fourth and Fifth.
Okay. Is that one of those whack-a-mole lines?
You're gonna have to speak louder.
Is that a whack-a-mole line where multiple patches have been,
There's lots of patches down Lincoln.
okay, so it's, okay, it's on
this one is to the left as you're heading towards Fourth.
It was a new area.
the, okay. So I'm familiar, there was one on the south side of that road, but
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
That's where the water pipe is,
And
on the
so-
south side.
This is on
No,
north,
no, right there on the south side.
okay.
If you go down Lincoln at the top, it's right there at the alley between Stiles and Lonnie,
Soliday?
yes,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I thought we were talking the same place, so.
Yep.
It's,
Is it the same pipe
yes,
as down on Willis?
4-inch pipe, steel coated.
no, it's not the same pipe. Willis is this old 6-inch line. This is a 4-inch pipe.
I thought you meant the same pipe all the way down the street.
Oh, no, no.
Same
clarify.
type of pipe.
Same, yeah. It's different, composition.
Yeah, it's a steel pipe with a dipping raft on it.
Is that one setting on rock too up there? Is it setting on rock?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It's,
Okay,
we barely could get the repair band on there. It's on the rock.
so it's just setting on basalt, like
Yeah.
what's right in front of our houses.
No bedding. Nothing. Just,
I was just trying to determine, in my mind, the age of it. If it's one of the older ones or if it was a newer one.
Scotty?
Yeah.
We measure our water lines in terms of people.
It's alive.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
no,
But the dump truck's fixed, the hoist on the dump truck?
Yeah.
1 ton.
Yeah,
bed.
the 1 ton, yes. It's working.
Okay.
We replaced the hose on the backhoe. I flipped that metal piece around the hydraulic, so it's no longer rubbing on the pivot.
Excellent.
So Troy made a observation the other day I thought was a great observation. Several of our pieces of equipment, such as our snow plow, is very definitely an industrial piece of equipment that requires somebody with a special license to drive. And it's also a piece of equipment when you want to replace something, they're significantly higher in parts prices than would be a Ford or Chevy 1-ton, such as the one you have, David, sitting in your driveway
Mm-hmm.
with the snowplow on. He made a suggestion to me that rather than having a 1959 International dump truck that will hold 50,000 pounds, maybe we get rid of that big piece of equipment that costs us so much to maintain and buy a 1-ton truck with a blade on the front that anybody could drive, wouldn't have to have a special license, and the cost of operating that piece would be significantly less over the years. And we could also use it during the rest of the year. You just take the blade off and set it behind the shop and use that as a service truck for the city. Our old 1-ton that we have, you all know that, the green one is,
1974.
yeah, it's a Great Harrington 1-ton. It has a dump box, and I have no problem with it. living its life right here and using it within the confines of our city. I would not consider it a truck to go to Spokane in, or I wouldn't wanna leave the city in. You know, it's great,
Understood,
it's
yeah.
great here, but it's,
I guess my only concern with that snowplow part of it is, at least with that large truck, you can go down a city street and you can move the snow all the way down the street. And all this depends on what kind of a winter you're responding to,
Yep.
right? So, I mean, in some ways, it's impossible to have this discussion without having a definition of, are you talking about 2 inches, are you talking about 8 inches? But my only concern would be without that larger one, and I guess if we don't have the person to operate the larger one, it kind of becomes
a moot point.
a moot point, but nonetheless, it could take significantly longer, at least in some winters, if that was our main source. We could be having to use a lot more of combined plowing and using the bucket on the
Tractors,
tractor.
loaders.
Loader.
In my experience on the council, just anecdotal, a lot of winters when the snow has been really bad, we have relied on Mike Heron and his pickup to do the lion's share of the plowing because that thing has ended up in the shop for 3 weeks on end.
The dump truck?
Yes. There are some winters that have just spent half the winter being repaired, while Mike has been taking care of the entire town with his pickup and we've used the backhoe. Not saying we need to just kick the thing to the side, just saying that we
You are correct.
have
I'm-
survived a
I
lot
have
of
not
bad
plowed a
storms
lot of
without
snow,
it.
so I can't answer to that question. You have a,
Yeah. Well, my 2 cents,
Don't be
snow
cheap.
plow, no, snow plowing in its entirety, it's hard on equipment.
of course,
And because, and given that fact, it also depends on the people or person's operator.
Yeah.
How they, and that also depends how many curbs you have around, and what type. However, and, Mr. Hardy, Stephen is a very good point you guys brought up. It's also gonna depend on the depth of snow you're trying to move and push
Sure.
around. Obviously, the more, you know, a 1 ton would be, you could do it, but you're gonna work the living daylights out of it, and to that fact, you're not really going to, you're gonna work it to, it's gonna break down too.
sure.
And in some respects, it could be more cost prohibitive to run something like that if you're trying to move a mountain with a a little, it's not a toy, but in a sense, it will feel like a toy when you're trying to move a substantial amount of snow. So ideally, a good, you need maybe not quite the size we have now. First of all, it was a wore-out piece of junk to begin with.
Well
I'll just
said.
say it as it is.
Well said.
And so if you get newer stuff, definitely not brand new because it's just astronomically unfeasible.
Of course.
But you get some good quality stuff, and along with other equipment to assist that, you won't abuse this piece of equipment because you have this other one to help out and, be more proficient in your snow removal technique. But yes, a 1 ton like I have, it takes you, I did it a little bit with the city here. It takes you about twice as long, twice, 3 times to do it. Whereas the big one, 2 passes, you're done. And it really depends on your technique and what you want to accomplish. If you're like the airport, you want to get every snowflake out there, a 1 ton's not your answer. If you don't care so much and you can leave some stuff, I mean, yeah, you can get by, but it'd be nice to have one of each, actually, ideally. So,
But, I mean, to circle that back around, I mean, that was my first thought, is that if let's say that dump truck was not a piece of junk, it would, I think the idea would be in some ways silly, especially if you had a personal license for that, right? Because you're gonna take so much longer and the abuse factor. But given that that truck is so vulnerable to break down and that we don't necessarily reliably have a person to run it, I'm not so sure it is a bad idea, as long as we would need to have a game plan to pair with it. Because I would not want to see us going, well, whatever winter we have, I guess we'll just keep beating the crap out of this 1 ton until we get the streets plowed. Like, we would need to have some kind of a plan to, when it gets past a certain point, we're going to need to contract with someone, or you're going to have, I mean, something's going to have to be done, because it's really only going to take care of light to moderate winters that way.
You can add to that, you can get other pieces of equipment that'll take the place of that you won't need a CDL. But how,
Is the truck
Do we-
itself the cause of the CDL? It's over
Yeah.
26,000 pounds?
and that's something insurance, thanks for bringing that up, Councilman Armand, is, I don't know anymore the legalities behind that, but if it's in our own nest, let's say, is it a requirement that we, for our insurance, or just what is it that's doing it? If it's on our property, our streets,
It's, I think it's federal. It's Department of Transportation.
And you've got the highway going through, all the way through the.
right, yeah, right.
Which will be
North of town.
plowed by it, but
Um,
is there anything else, what can you put a plow of that size on? And still have it?
loaders,
Oh, that particular plow? That's a big plow.
Well, didn't we get another plow? Didn't Nathan come up with one that was surplus from
Yeah.
some
Sprague, wasn't it?
Sprague?
We have another dump truck right behind the shop too.
And it doesn't run either?
But see,
It
Harrington,
doesn't run, no, currently at all. The
The-
one
the-
we have
Because it
does
seems
run.
like it would, I mean, you'll go slower on a tractor, but it seems more practical to put a plow like that on a tractor, because at least it doesn't require a special license, and the tractor is gonna be built heavier, and it's a piece of equipment we're already committed to having to maintain, whereas, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't use the dump truck for anything else other than snow plowing?
well, I just remember, the times I went through Davenport, say, during the winter, and I don't know if it was the cities or who, but I've seen some, loaders and stuff out there moving the snow on Morgan Street.
Sure. Davenport does
I
it.
mean, you can do a lot of stuff with them. Now, I don't know if it was a contractor doing it for them, or the city of Davenport, town, whatever, but you could,
But if your tractor is your main way of dealing with heavy snow, it's not gonna go fast. So if you have a light day that's just barely worth plowing, you're gonna have to have that 1 ton to get through the city streets, because if you try and plow that with a tractor all day, you're gonna be there all day. in
Our
some-
dump truck is set up with the box tilts both directions. Right now it tilts up in the back, which drops the sand out on the sanders in front.
Right.
You can go through the operation to put the bed back down, pull the pins, put the pins that are in the front now in the back, so that it could be used as a dump truck.
I
We
guess
use
that's-
our 1 ton as a dump truck at the present moment. to
So
move
that's
gravel.
another question then too, is that if we lose the ability to sand, how big of a deal?
you'd have to put one
Also,
on.
you gotta take into consideration, I'm using that zero turn to clear parking lots and some
Right.
alleys, so the senior meals, library,
Sidewalks,
and now it's gonna be here. That thing's on its last legs. We're down at the 2-cylinder motor with 1 cylinder running. I love it for the sidewalks, it still goes. But
We have to do something.
okay, well, we've spent a fair amount of time on that. That was just a thought to bring up. Anything else you wanna throw in there, Troy? Okay,
thank you.
Wanted to thank the Public Works for I haven't seen it the last couple of days whether it's done, but the graveling that we did up here, I was noticing that was making progress, so thank you.
Have a
for
what?
The graveling around the building over here.
Oh, yeah, that's all done.
It was looking good when I was seeing it.
Yeah. That's all done back there. The weeds are all gone. all the foliage on the front and sides,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Yes.
Let you know one thing, that may not be a parking facility. Because when you look at the water protection wellhead program, nobody's supposed to be parked around the wellheads.
How
And
far
I
away?
can show you the map, and it goes out 50 feet from the wellhead is what they call Zone 1. Nobody is supposed to be parking any gasoline vehicles.
So you're
In
saying we're gonna
zone
have
one.
an EV parking lot?
Yeah, that's, sorry about that. That only surfaced after we cleaned up the area, so it's cleaned up now. But we
Yeah.
can't park gas vehicles back there.
Sounds like
Or
another
anything that
reason
could
for us
leak
to get
anything
donated
hazardous.
Some EVs.
Just don't
Nor
tell
can
them
you,
there's
nor
oil.
can you spray weed killer or anything else in those areas.
We park our electric cars back there.
Yes, we could. So as soon as we get one, that's where they could go.
Hidden behind the building.
So no one's-
Yes.
Okay. I put a spot on here and I said possible garbage motion. That was just written in there. Not so much of a motion. Does anybody have any information they'd like to bring or talk about the garbage at the present?
What is this? Have we heard back from?
I have not. I talked to Paul Dion this week and he didn't get back with me. I do have something that's not humorous, but
That
we
chuckle
got,
made me nervous.
huh?
That chuckle made me nervous.
Well, we got our letter from Sunshine today, and it's going up 1.35% again this year, and fuel costs.
1.35?
Yeah, I think. Oh, excuse me, 5 point something.
Thank you.
I'll give that to you later.
I'll sign 1% any
Because I
day.
think our plan is hopefully not to be in the garbage business. But
What was their, they raised it, what, 7-8% last year?
I can't answer that question for you, David. What
And
they-
their excuse was, fuel was part of it.
But
Doesn't pay to produce garbage.
No, let's go back to burning.
and there'll be fuel costs involved in that.
Right, but there, I specifically remember that last time they raised it, I think it was a year ago, fuel was, part of the equation. And I don't think fuel is,
Well, and they have the
Yeah.
ability to come back at us for fuel if it exceeds their expected amounts as well.
I have it, I don't have it in front of me right at the moment here.
I think the only thing that remains on that is for Sunshine to give us a proposal of what their rate schedule would be, and when we think that looks good, we just pass a resolution to end garbage service effective a certain date, and that's that.
Did any of you see the ad in the paper or the article in the paper?
which,
I did,
Yeah.
and I would make a comment that I think there's potential point of clarification to say that Sunshine said that they aim to keep their rates comparable to ours in our intended raises that we discussed. Their rates will not be commensurate with what citizens are getting this year.
That's possible after this new rate increase.
Well, even before, when Paul was here last time, and he was giving us back of the
Quotes.
napkin math, his quotes, last meeting before that increase was quoted, was, because I compared two
Right.
can sizes back and forth, and so it's definitely gonna be higher than this year.
regardless.
Yeah.
If-
Regardless.
And to
Yeah.
me, they're our service. What we do, we don't haul the garbage, so to me,
Nope.
they're our service.
Yep.
So we just been subsidizing it, sorry. And I think I've had people kind of, why is it gonna cost us so much for garbage? What happened? How come we can't, well,
The last
It-
10 years of not raising the rates, so it happened.
but, it was also brought up that there was, an ordinance resolution or something, that we were supposed to put, X amount of dollars, or, a kitty, a slush fund, to a savings account, let's say, I think it was, to help with that, the tipping fees and the raises. Has anyone come across that agreement? And maybe I'm not stating that correctly, but it was kind of like when we had the fire contract, and we put so much, there was
Well,
a
but
way to,
in the end,
pay
it's still
for it.
gonna be subsidy, because the thing is, you only bring in X number of dollars
right,
from the citizens for the service. And then we have to spend Y in order to pay for the transportation and the tipping fees.
correct.
So if Y is more than X, then you can talk about having a savings fund or wherever else, but it's still a subsidy.
Right. And I think that's what maybe needs to be explained in more detail going forward to everybody. That,
I mean, if we
What
were
has
making a
happened.
business out of being the middleman on garbage, we would declare bankruptcy by now.
yeah.
Okay. We're gonna move on from that. I was asked this week to put Harrington Truck and Auto on the agenda. I wasn't specific on asking any questions, so that's on the table right now. Anybody have any discussion they would like to bring up about the truck and auto?
So maybe this will be a little clearer after, can we talk about the fence height standards first? Because I think those two discussions are going to be related.
I have no problem with that. Anybody else? Okay. So one question that I am asked probably on a weekly basis, and it's like similar questions. People come in here and you can dig through the past boxes of paperwork. You can do searches on our ordinances, and you will find nothing about many of the questions people have, like,
Correct.
how high can my fence be? I have exhausted every piece of paper that I can find, and I find nowhere in our past ordinances specific heights for fences, fronts, sides, backyards. So I would be glad to have anybody find those ordinances. If you want me to bring out the book that I refer to as Noah's Bible, it weighs about 50 pounds, and it has every ordinance that's ever been written for this town. And if you'd like to go through those, I've been through them. I'd be happy to allow you to partake in that.
Has there been questions, somebody wanting to build a fence or
Oh,
somebody
yes, on a
complaining?
regular
somebody-
basis. And to find that information, sorry, I can't find it for you.
No,
And if you dig through the ordinances, you'll find about 3 ordinances in there have it. And I can go get that one for you. It's 319.
yeah, 319, it doesn't say it at all, does it?
No,
I thought there was like 4,
it tells you how many feet from the front yard where you can have a fence come and how wide your side yard can be. There's all kinds of stipulations that would refer to where the fences can go and heights. And we've kind of come that, think that it's probably been an unspoken law that the man who was the public works man said that a fence could be this high, and that's the way it's always been here.
The only thing I can think of that would pertain to this would be at intersections,
Yeah?
line of sight for railroad crossings, intersections, stuff like that, playground, whatever you want to add to it. Other than that,
So it's something that I would love to see the city council, as the legislative group, come up with a piece of legislative information that defines how high fences could be.
I know there's setbacks so far off the stuff, and
Yeah, that would be 319 that'll tell you that. And I believe that a fence height can be a certain portion from side of your house back, like a 6-foot fence in your backyard, but they were not allowed past the front of the house. And you'll find that as you go around town.
well, I think, like I said, a lot of it was for line of sight on intersections, was the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, so I did some research. If I may interrupt, I'm sorry.
Nope.
You're fine.
Um,
This is all discussion, Joe.
I pulled Spokane Valley's Fences, they obviously have the same issue, so they have literally a document, the fence installation guidelines, which refers to various ordinances and what have you. It's pretty comprehensive, it's more than we need. Talks about barbed wire fencing to confine animals, we don't need to go there. But it talks about what they refer to as a clear view triangle.
Okay.
Which is exactly what you're talking about in these intersections, where it defines how much of an angle and
Mhm.
where it has
Line
to
of
be.
sight.
And I would be happy to share this with you. I don't think anybody would have an exception to this, when we even talk about electric fencing. Now, that might appeal to some people, but probably not appropriate in Harrington. But they do talk about the side heights, the back heights. They, in fact, go up to 7 feet without a permit.
For-
For the
Backside.
backside.
Yeah.
They say anything up to 7 and up to 8 has to be permitted and engineered. So they want to make sure that fences that are too tall are obviously thought out. But anyway, I think what I'm hearing is we can put together this ordinance. I think what we just need is the agreement of how high do we go.
Well, I think once you read in there, you'll see, I don't really care, the only concern I personally would have, and for good reason, would be the line of sight when you come to intersections. And it kind of maybe addresses that a little bit, when you're talking about the front yard, a certain height. Because if you're in a little car or a truck even, it matters what you can see. Yeah.
So it has
You're
two-
gonna need to get you a cart for that.
With
We need the
wheels.
TV.
Put it up on the big
have
screen.
for a TV.
Yeah, it's there.
Well, you'd also have to take into consideration if you can see through the fence.
Back to chain link versus, all
Wooden-
that.
Yeah, and I
wooden
believe they
fence.
addressed that in there too.
Yeah, but that's, is there any RCWs or what, it's not an RCW?
2 fingers.
So this is something we could do at our meeting
Okay,
on the 25th, which is going to be a workshop.
okay.
If you'd like, I can draft something and we can just leave heights out. We can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, this is all rated, like on city streets, 25, 30, arterials, highways, a good place for that would be, people could, well, I know right now, pulling off of Fulton, your road out there, Chris,
Yeah, Cold Creek.
yeah.
Cool Creek, yeah?
And when people park at the park, or whatever, those vehicles that are diagonal there, or whatever, they can shadow or block, a blind spot, obstruct, is a better word. Anybody coming, I ran into it, and I've been in trucks, semi to pickups, cars, but I mean, it can affect that, so,
You have the same problem right here on Main and
Yeah.
Third.
yeah.
If you pull up here on the day and you've got cars parked all the way up Third and down here in front of the store,
Mhm.
could be a semi parked there unloading, you have to pull out into the intersection to see what's coming down the state highway here.
And hope they're going
Just
25.
close your eyes and press on the gas.
Most do, I think, sometimes.
I'll keep my
Why
eyes
not?
open when I see you at that intersection.
Those are all, in town should be all low speed. Excuse me, Chris.
Thank you.
So if the council would like to get together and draft something to produce at that meeting, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Joe has offered.
To draft
Draft
an
is the
ordinance
key
and
word.
bring it to the council
To bring it to the council to fill in some blanks and make some tweaks.
at our workshop.
Yep.
So this is basically to assist people that are trying to build a fence, or right now, there's nobody complaining.
We have a couple,
Yeah.
well, they've decided they're gonna wait till spring to build their fence.
Okay.
And I told them I'm working on it. Okay, there was also comments about the truck and auto
Yeah,
in regards to fences, I'm assuming.
yeah.
Okay?
So, I believe it's public knowledge that Harrington Truck and Auto is for sale. or at least unless that's been rescinded, I believe that's still the case. One of the things that has come up in discussion from citizens voicing concerns is the appearance of the junk vehicles. And when we've talked about, or not, the parts that he has available through the vehicles that are out there, and the appearance of that as you're going between Davenport and Odessa. We've talked about with junk vehicle ordinances and now with fence heights in general and stuff. I believe one of the concerns, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking through our ordinances we have a section 8.04.030 for public nuisances, talking about properly fenced areas. And maybe this doesn't have a full definition to it yet, but I guess the fairest way to put it is there is open questions about the visibility of those cars.
That'd be a screening issue,
Right,
fencing and screening.
right. And so the council has not seemingly come to the point of wanting to take action on it in the past. And we sitting here don't know who would be interested in that facility and for what purposes. I think it would just behoove the city to think about what ordinances do we have on the books? Are they really applicable for that place? Should they be removed? Should they be added to? Should they be strengthened? There's a whole bunch of different directions you can go, but as the property changes hands, maybe to do the same thing that it does today, or maybe someone could want to do something with that property that would be even more controversial within the town. I just think it's a good idea for us to talk about how fencing and that kind of a property, what is it going to look like in 5 to 10 years? And how do our ordinances influence that one way or another?
So are we talking about the cars that are within inside his fenced area now?
Yes.
There's an RCW that addresses that.
And I was
junk
looking
cars.
for that, but I could not. I know
I thought
that
I had it here, but
they define, I thought there was one that defined proper fencing for it,
Right.
but I couldn't, I'm failing to find that right
I think
That would
it's-
probably be 319 too. Do you want a hard
It's
copy of that?
RCW,
No, I think the RCWs actually do
30.
address
Oh,
fencing
RCWs.
screening, yeah.
So,
for salvage.
That's
loads.
actually not a junkyard. And what those vehicles.
Forgive my using that term then.
That's true. Those vehicles that are sitting back there are being parted out.
Right.
And they're
Hey,
being-
Levi, I'm with you.
They're being used as,
Hanger queens is the term.
Hanger
Hanger
queens.
queens.
well, there's parts
I
being
should have.
removed
It was a
off those.
vocalized thought.
Yes, I understand that.
There's no,
now. I think I might have.
I know that the piece of property is being sold at the present time as a business. So that's the attempt that it's being, trying to be sold. But
Screening or
I'm sure it could be sold as a piece of property for whatever anybody else determined it
it's
to be.
close.
It's in a whack.
So
Whack
what I
308 for heaven's.
What I did find is RCW 47.41.040. The second paragraph, if it is economically feasible to screen the junkyard, the department shall screen the junkyard so that it will not be visible from the main traveled way of the highway.
Correct. Close to that.
Whereas vehicle wreckers have a different designation. The activities of a vehicle wrecker must be conducted entirely within the establishment place of the business. A physical barrier must designate the boundary of the wrecking yard where necessary to obscure public view of the premise. Must be enclosed by a light or a sight obscuring wall or fence of at least 8 feet high.
Yeah. You can't just put a 4-foot chain link and say it's fenced. It has to be
Yeah.
screening too.
Yeah.
And I think there is approval of trees or bushes. I mean, it goes on to a lot of stuff. I think I purged a lot of that after we adopted our ordinance, but, yeah.
I have a great appreciation for the business Mike and Aaron's have done there. I've not had a desire to want to negatively impact their ability to do business, but I think, especially given the concerns in the community, it's appropriate for us to at least have the discussion on the citizens' concerns that have been persistent over the years in regards to the visibility. I think of late, we've seen how people can buy properties, and again, this is a comment on the buyer, not the seller, but people can buy properties and use them for entirely other purposes or take them a different place than was expected. And it might be a good time for us to figure out what exactly we're going to do about some of those things. I don't know if there's an action in that, Jess.
There is not an action that I see, but I don't,
Yeah, it's on our,
Well, I mean, there isn't a request out of it specifically. I guess I put it this
yeah,
way.
fine.
There are quite a number of citizens that want the city to be talking and to be thinking about this issue. And there are some who want the city to come to the point of enforcement on this issue. And so I think it's something that maybe we should all be thinking about what steps we would be willing to take, if any, between now and the next meeting, because I think it's at least incumbent upon us to be discussing the things that our citizens want us to be discussing. Whether we see actions the same way as they do is another matter.
yeah.
We can move on, I think, at this point, but I think it's something just to continue to be thinking about and considering. Otherwise, I guess we could take the position as a council that we just won't ever do anything about those considerations.
So
which
is
will
that the
have
kind of
its
thing you
own-
think you need to have a public hearing about or anything and get input from the public or?
At the core, it really comes down to, I think, is the city going to get into enforcing our ordinances in regards to the appearance of properties? What would that actually take? And are we going to get into the middle of calling someone on things that come from the state, like wax, like what Joe read? And those are open questions. And if the council's decision is no, we're not going to pursue the enforcement of our ordinances, then I would, or at least some of them, then I would say then the ones that we're not going to enforce, we should remove.
So I would agree with you on that 100%. In our handbook, for instance, there are forms that you can fill out as citizen complaints.
Yes.
And there are rules in the handbook that say what we will do about those citizen complaints. And the mayor's in charge of putting these things together and put them together and bring them back to the council. And then we either move or not. So if somebody wanted to fill out some of those kind of incident request forms, there is something in place, but there is a step-by-step procedure that you have to follow.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that kind of brings me back to our earlier what we approved for Lincoln County law enforcement services. What actually are we getting? Is this part of that?
I haven't studied that agreement, so I'm, yeah.
And that might be, I'm opening another can of worms here, we'll stay with the program, but this enforcement stuff kind of falls in line with what we're talking about.
We don't do a great job at enforcing our ordinances. But when you have ordinances on your books that say you can't play ball around a horse that's tied up, gentlemen, those are kind of things, when you have those on the books, you know that you're in trouble if you're playing ball around the horses. Well,
I've said to individuals on this this council and in our town, I think we need to start reviewing all of our ordinances. And I've already got a hit list of a number of them I want to get rid of.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I
Either
think
they're
I think I
unapplicable
probably agree with
Or
you.
they're poorly designed, but I do think it's important that if we vote to keep it, we've voted to enforce it. Because if we keep the ordinances we won't enforce, then what do we have?
Nothing. Yeah.
Do I have a law if you can't
Yep.
enforce it? Yeah.
Okay. I agree with you. I think we got some things we need to deal with here. And we'll put that on the agenda for our work meeting for sure. I'd like to see some of you after the meeting to make sure we get our list up to date. Lease agreement with the county, we already talked about that. Mayor comments. Mayor comments is a little different this week. I didn't have the ability to increase all of the things on the agenda, so I've given you a list of things here on the mayor comments. One of them is make a motion for resolution 248, 2023. Has everybody got a copy of that? And that is a resolution that we move forward with the loan from getting the refi on our loan and moving forward on this for that loan that we've had out for, since 2005, that we paid, $400 and some thousand, and there's still $400,000 left. And if we refinance this loan from 4.5% to 1.1, we're gonna save $239,000 in the next, well, as soon as we sell this thing and this goes through. We will not increase any dollar value going out of the city. In fact, we will reduce it. The length of the loan will still be for another 22 years. It'll be paid off in 2045, which it was going to before. But you will pay off $239,000 less on that loan by paying 1.1% interest instead of 4.5, which we're currently paying.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Now, I will say that if I remember correctly, and I don't think we did it through resolution, but I think this body already basically gave the mayor authority to sign that contract.
yeah. So part of that required that we have a resolution. There was 4 things. A resolution was one of them. There is a letter to our lawyer, which I talked to today, our city attorney, and he said there are a couple things here that he wasn't in favor of, but as you know him as an individual, he's, some things he's not in favor of. But he said, I would be glad to sign this document that says he's read it all and agreed with it. And that loan was for $483,000, $483,369, with an annual payment of $32, which is going to go down now. So, at any rate, that's what Resolution 2023 says, is that we're gonna move forward with this. And I heard we had a motion to accept this. Do we have a second? We have a second. Discussion? All in favor of accepting Resolution 248, 2023 to accept the loan for 1.1% from 4.25%, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Very good. Motion passes 5-0. Second thing on my list is discuss the payment of an Amazon bill for battery backup. And this is, here's the order right here. Stephen, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, as some of you may know, the last 2 days have been October Amazon Prime Days. And one of the deals that came up as a result of that was a really nice deal on a pure sine wave UPS. A UPS stands for uninterruptible power supply, and you can think of it like a water tank. It just helps smooth out what's going on from the pump. A UPS provides surge protection, so if there's a surge in the power line, that doesn't transfer down to your equipment and burn it out. But if the power goes off, it'll continue to run the equipment for some degree of time, and also, I think, maybe more importantly, if there's a brownout, if there's a time where the power flickers on and off and on and off, or if there's less than 120 volts, it stabilizes all that. So why is all this pertinent? The city has had UPSs historically. In fact, when we moved, we found 3 of them. 2 of them are completely shot. Like, the battery is just toast, and there's nothing left. They are de minimis. How's there?
Thank you.
Saw it on your face. One of them we're using over there for Donna's machine, and I haven't tested how good it is yet. It's quite possible that if I turned on Donna's machine and I unplugged it, it could die in 30 seconds because the batteries degrade over time. They just do. So we either have only one good UPS or we have 0. And the reason why that's pertinent is we've now have invested in 4 screens for Donna's machine, and we've got a fairly nice desktop there that we've upgraded a number of things. We actually lost, this didn't come up in a council meeting, but we actually lost the hard drive in Donna's machine one weekend a couple back, and so I spent most of that weekend rebuilding all that from backups. So it's like hardware loss is no joke. It takes a lot of our time, and it's downtime potential and stuff. So a UPS is about protecting our investment, and then we've also got that little server unit that now is backing up multiple machines. And that's what held the backup, so that when Donna's hard drive died, if we didn't have a backup for it, we just would have lost all of her files. So that's now sitting in the basement, and so we need at least one for upstairs, and I think I might be able to run both Cynthia's machines and Donna's off of the same unit, maybe, depending on how much wattage is being used. And then I need one for downstairs. So in the best case scenario, I'll take the new one, I'll put it up here, and I'll take Donna's old one, assuming it still actually works, and move it downstairs. So why am I submitting a reimbursement for this? Why couldn't I have just had the city buy it from Amazon directly? Because we do buy things from Amazon. It's because it's a Prime Day deal, and the city does not have an Amazon Prime account. And so even though the city could have bought it, it would have been $500 instead of $238. Is an amazing deal, and it's made by a reputable manufacturer. So, anyways, if the council doesn't want to, I'm not asking for a vote. It's one of those things that you'll actually approve it when the next claims list comes out. But if there's a substantial objection, I'll just cancel the order. But if there is no objection, this is just a heads up that the next claims list, you'll see a reimbursement to me for that amount.
214.08 after all of the deductions.
Oh,
It started out at
no.
two-
Well, that's because I had some gift cards and stuff that
Oh, you're saying it is 234.99?
plus tax. So it's this plus this. These were the gift cards and stuff I ended up applying to it from my own. So it's 234 plus 1880.
CPI.
Yeah. And when the power goes out, if Donna's in the middle of working on something or Cynthia's working on something, the lights will go out and their machine will still be running such that they can save and shut down properly. Otherwise, if the power just goes out, what they could be working on is just gone. They could have been working on it for 4 hours and boop, power flickers for just a second and it's all gone. So that's what a UPS, it protects the equipment and it makes sure that there are no unexpected inefficiencies due to power. So,
Thank you for taking the initiative to do something about it.
yeah.
Yes, I handed that down. Did everybody get a chance to see Sunshine's? Okay.
David pointed out something though, it's not just the cost. It's
CPI.
not the CPI.
It's also a fuel.
It's
Yeah.
also another
So-
4.5% for fuel.
Yes.
So they basically totals 9.76%.
Or close to it. I
So
mean,
10%
it's-
increase over roughly.
yeah.
Well, they went into some sheets here, and this came this afternoon, so.
Good reason to get out.
Okay, Stephen, that's gonna show up on next month's claims.
Unless anyone speak now, or, I mean, you'll get a vote next meeting, but if you have objections, let me know.
I have no problem at all.
Okay. Item 3 on the mayor's comment list, we got a call this week, in fact yesterday, from a lady named Wanda at the auditor's office. And Wanda called and asked what day we would like to start our audit, next week or as late as November 16th. And my question was her, the date wasn't real important to me, but audit what, Wanda? And Wanda said, we don't know yet. So like I say, my question was audit what? What do you want to audit?
Have your people call her people and
Well, believe me, they're going to call us. And I'm sure when they call, they'll know what they want to audit. But it's going to be for the years 2021 and 2022. She thought it could have been a financial audit.
they were supposed to have one, and that was,
Yeah.
Well, this is, yes,
was that this year or was it last year?
no, it's this year.
This year. We were expecting it in the early part of this year.
Right.
But now they're calling and they don't know yet. But we'll hear, so that'll be available for us soon. But
Well,
so this office is going to start with an audit here probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that's going to require probably one person's time.
I don't know if Donna had a thought on this, but I would guess since we're still, or we just recently finished up the Wheatland to U.S. Bank reverse that, U.S. Bank to Wheatland transitions, et cetera, waiting longer into November probably is better later than sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll take the last date that we can get
Yeah.
there.
December
push that out.
31st.
Items 4 on my list here, discuss the library questions. I forwarded it to you, all of the questions that were sent to me by the president of the library board. And I answered her that I thought it was, in my opinion, we had given them the ability to be a standalone operation. And we also gave them a budget. So I didn't think it was really going to be city or public works who was going to paint their building. If they want to do that, that's something that we could do, but I asked the council, I told her I would bring that to the council.
They're kind of a standalone board now, right?
That was my understanding, but
And take
I,
care of their building and do what they kind
Well,
of want
okay.
under their budget,
But
to a certain degree.
Well, but the question, I think, is that term, their building. Because if it's their building, then it's gonna be, then their budget probably needs to pay for their electricity and their this and their that. We've thus far been operating under the premise that we're going to give you a home for free, so that you can operate, you can focus on the business of books type thing. So the thing is, they are operating their library in our building. And so, thus far, I'm not saying we can't change that expectation, but it's like, if they want to, they're just throwing out a collection of things that could be controversial with various people. If they want to throw away all of the animal heads, is that their building to do that with? If they want to rent out the upstairs and turn it into an apartment like what's up above here, is that their building to do it with? And so I don't think when we really start to stretch the limits of what they can do to their building, I don't really think it's their building. If they want to say this is our building and make it a part of our budget and all that kind of stuff, we could make the decision to say it's your building now, you're self-sufficient. But, I mean, I agree we've given them autonomy over everything their budget covers, but thus far we've tried to give them the benefit of not having their budget have to cover building-related expenses.
Or remodels or anything
Yeah.
like that.
I know that one of the other deals that they're concerned about is it has become public knowledge that the city doesn't utilize volunteers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which kind of creates this little problem of the people who are willing to do it
Mm-hmm.
really can't
Mm-hmm.
because of situation with labor and industries. So I just know that that was a point of contention on how do they get around that. Because libraries are one of those things that almost rely on volunteerism.
Well,
So,
what say you, Mr. Insurance Man?
well, let's see, I'm not a labor and industries person, I'll tell you that. Well, that is that's like the IRS, they are just a different animal and machine.
Generally, I don't care if they, just my 2 cents, I don't care if they paint the building. I'm not trying to use.
Paint the interior walls.
Sure, I'm not trying to use this as an excuse to stop them from doing this, but yeah, I think it goes to a larger discussion of when we started talking about this, a lot of their building just popped up, and it might be time where we're gonna have to start thinking about, is the term their building really their building?
Appropriate, yeah.
I don't think it's their building, but we gave them the autonomy to use our city building as a library and run the library as they saw fit.
You
Yeah.
kind of look at
And a
it like,
budget to do so.
if they were leasing it or renting it, you know, what would they do?
Yeah.
If they wanted to paint the place, well, some places supply the paint for you and others deduct it off the rent. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. But I personally don't think that we need to tie up city, public works doing it either.
There's no time for public work.
Right.
Well, we can put other things on hold if that's what the city decides.
I guess we'll find out if preschoolers can paint.
Yeah.
So no, I just wanted to pass her
Okay.
questions along. She asked for a vacuum cleaner. We don't have any other vacuum cleaner, so if the city would like to buy a vacuum cleaner for our building. you
Didn't we
know,
have one when we were over there?
Yes.
Do they know how to operate it?
Yeah,
That's, I apologize, everybody. No, but it's a worn out vacuum, right? Is what everybody
it's
I'm
in the
hearing?
same shape as many pieces of equipment are in the city.
De minimis.
De minimis?
Lack of maintenance.
Well,
Has led to their decay.
I guess we had some people, what's the status now? Is there somebody that's supposed to clean the library and the halls?
One
and
of
all
our public works individuals
Is-
spends like 3 hours a week there.
In the library?
Yes,
Really?
yes. And after he goes over and mops the hall, he mops the floors at the Memorial Hall.
Then
He
let's,
comes in here today, he mopped and shined the floors here, cleaned the bathrooms.
well, if we're gonna do that, get a dang good vacuum then. If we're gonna, Public Works is doing it. Get something that works, not a cheap piece of, and not the most expensive, but
No,
No, vacuum prices have come down a lot,
considerably.
and.
You're
are
probably looking under
considerable-
$300 for a vacuum like you've had at
or way better
home. A
than
Dust
that, yeah.
Devil or, one of those.
Well,
So yes, we could get a new
I,
vacuum
that'd
cleaner.
be my opinion.
Yeah.
Check Amazon. Prime,
Yeah.
maybe there's
yeah,
something.
there could still
You
be a
got till
deal.
midnight
I'll-
tonight.
Deal out
Yeah, I'll
there.
check that out. But specific to her 3 questions, who does the work? I think we can say not city workers, but for outside paint company or volunteers. I think the most useful answer we can give them is, we don't care, would be my, if,
Whatever your budget,
I'm
Whatever.
saying, I don't want to ask questions. That gives them the most flexibility, is that we aren't paying our workers to do that, but however you get it,
If you want to paint the library, paint the library.
Yeah, I will tell you
whatever
this,
your
I don't-
budget can handle.
There's a number of people on that library board that I would rather not see leaving Mother Earth on the ladder. I don't want to see them up on the ladder. Just saying. My wife's one of them. I don't want her up on the
No,
ladder.
no, you.
well,
valid point.
that would be at their discretion, because, okay, I'll say what I've already said in public record before. If, with all due respect to L&I and insurance concerns, if we start asking every single question, we're not going to get any benefit from the community anymore ever. At some point, we need to be wise in what questions we ask and what questions we don't ask. And so I'm saying that board should ask questions they think is appropriate, but who does it between paint company and volunteers, I think is not my question to ask.
So if they get a bid from a paint company,
That
and
would need to
and they
come,
bring it to me, I'm going to bring it to the council.
yeah, so that would be budget for the work.
Yeah.
And that goes back to a theory of, is it our building or is it their building?
Of course it's our,
Well,
it is a city building.
right,
Well, in other words, who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the city eventually pays for it, but as we subtract it from,
you know, timeline, I think that's fully up to them. We don't have any vested concern in what the timeline is, I don't think.
Well, unless there's a strong objection, I don't have a problem with calling Labor and Industries and giving them an official lead on the use of volunteers.
just don't get us on the radar.
Well, we don't have any volunteers, so I mean, it's an open question. We have people that would like to volunteer. Is that even feasible?
But I think something that is pertinent is who owns the heads?
Actually, the library, have donated to the library,
Okay. Because,
according to all the articles and all the
Okay.
stuff I have on it, or was given to me. So,
I don't know if there will ever be a world in which those heads come down. But if there is, they might do well to make sure that they paint behind the heads. Otherwise, if they ever wanted to remove the heads, there's gonna be a bunch of ovals all the way
I
through.
mean, you don't want, you won't want a white-nosed moose up there?
I'm not saying whether they should or whether they shouldn't, because I think there's a lot of opinionation. I'm just saying, I think it advantages everyone that if that room gets painted, there should be options.
I have heard they're exploring a way to more productively incorporate those into a library resource educational environment.
That's what it was intended for.
Yeah, kiddies, come on over and take a look at the dead animals.
But using technology, QR codes and what have you, so they know which book to read up about the hyena.
The former mayor?
Yeah.
We'll explain that story in a little while.
No, that's the one I got in trouble with.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
It's hilarious.
Item number 5, October 25th will be a budget workshop, not a city council meeting. Okay? So 25th of October will be here. Item number 6 on my list. Although I'm not HR, I'm tasked with HR and many other jobs around here. And this particular job, I'm gonna give back to the people who wrote the handbook. In there, it refers to
We had a floating.
2 floating holidays, which are defined in the handbook under the 8 holidays that we're given every year. But nowhere else in that book does it tell you what a floating holiday is, who gets it, at what point in time they get it, if it has 6 years.
You found it in the new handbook that
Yeah.
it does
Would you
say,
like- would you
does
like
say
to see it?
floating holiday? 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't recall when we went through that, even having that, there was no need for it,
well, I'm not gonna.
that designation, because it doesn't make any sense.
We're not paid, so we don't have to worry about it.
The only thing that did make sense to me is the fact when it's in there and then there's nothing defining it. It's back there in the chapter on the lead.
Usually a floating holiday, if it was a holiday that's not recognized.
I'll send you an electronic copy too. So it's Christmas, 2 floating holidays. December is up here. This thing didn't print out well.
Well,
This is written.
that's written in though.
I wrote over it because it
Oh,
only
okay.
printed half of it.
Let's see if I can.
So if you
This is
go,
on
this is
41.
chapter 7. Chapter 7, yep, and there should be page 41 on there. Time off, there you go. When you get down there, when you print that, it doesn't come out. There you are. And are you sure you've got the one, have you got the one that you put on my disk, on
Mhm.
my
Mm-hmm.
computer?
It's not on there, is it, Stephen?
No.
I don't think that should not be in there.
So I had our IT man put our handbook on, because I had an old copy.
This is the same from May 11th. This is the same copy I put on your desktop.
Yeah.
I don't see floating holiday in there because we had to add Juneteenth as
Juneteenth.
that was the last
Yeah.
change we made to holidays.
Well, you're more than welcome to go on there and look at my computer. We can do it. You don't have to do it now. We can do that after the
Well,
meeting.
we crafted this.
And
so
maybe
I
we
don't
can
remember
erase this off the list.
Designating any two floating
Yeah, I
holidays.
I don't think.
I mean, with the amount of holiday, we just didn't.
Yeah. I think floating holidays was a
Election day.
vestige of the previous.
Usually what they'll do, a lot of, well,
It makes my life easy on that one.
Bargaining
The answer
units.
is no.
well,
You can't have the floating holiday.
Veterans Day.
I have
or
no
not
problem
Veterans
with
Day,
that.
but The Election Day.
No, I
and,
don't get it anyway.
Oh, God. Election Day and, I think Veterans Day, one of them that weren't recognized normally, they gave those as floatings, but they're in here though. Veterans Day, I don't think the
Columbus Day
voting.
is a federal holiday. except
You got
it's
the handbook on
Indigenous
yours?
now.
I don't know.
No?
Oh, we don't even
No,
have,
I think it was given to me. Stephen sent it to me.
Well,
Okay.
I'll look at your copy later.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll
did you want to say that?
we'll float that one till the next meeting.
All right.
Bridge repair. All of the paperwork has been signed for the bridge repair. There is one more signature, and it's probably already done by Nathan's supervisor. He was out of town at schooling, so it's probably done by now. I can't guarantee that, but I'm gonna pretty much say it's done. So all of that's done. So our bridge repair should start here real soon. And the last thing I had on my list was the levy activity. And I would like the group, we can go over that at our
Workshop?
workshop, yeah. There is a time in last year we signed it. There are some numbers here to come up with, and I think we took the 1% minimum.
Yeah.
Maximum, actually.
Is it one?
Yeah, it's a max
Maximum
one.
of 1%.
I think that's,
You gotta do it every year.
And I noticed when I was looking for our minutes last year, looking for something else, we actually had to do a public meeting.
Yeah.
That was probably on December 28th or something. We had to do a special
I
public
think
meeting
it
for
was-
that.
I think it was late November, but pretty close.
Okay. Well, that's a good thought too. Then we had to do a special meeting, if I remember. We had to do a special meeting and everybody came in for 5 minutes or something to do
I think
one.
that's the one where I called in. I was already in
Yep.
town. And it was a Friday. I called, yeah, I had to call in.
Yeah,
So-
I'm glad you thought about that. I didn't remember that, but I'm beginning to now. So we'll float that for the 25th of October too. And that's the last thing on the mayor's comments. Before we get to, there's one little last thing I want to put in here that wasn't put on, and is there any public comments?
Garbage issue. I mean, okay, so what are our options if the city gets out of the garbage business? As the citizens, what do we do then if you don't have the ability to haul your own garbage?
But it won't, you'll just contract with Sunshine directly.
Which would mean you're gonna pay up to Wazoo to have them come out.
It's
No.
gonna be the same cost either way.
we're in the process of raising, we have to, been subsidizing, and for the last several years, looking for a way to come even it out, and we haven't come to that, so they come to us, and so we can help you folks out, we'll just take that responsibility over. It's the same company, you won't, same receptacle, everything's the same, except you won't be paying your bill or being billed by the city here.
And you won't be
Because-
paying utility tax on it either.
Right,
Yes.
so you'll be,
It'll
We-
actually reduce our city water bill.
Little
Yes.
bit. It should actually be slightly cheaper for them to provide it than us.
It won't change your water bill. Your water bill is your water bill.
No, I'm just, because that's all lumped
Bill.
together.
Yeah.
That's right.
That total bill.
Yes.
Like, I
Correct.
have a 96, that happens to be $27, so my bill would be $27 less. You'll just pay that, just like you go pay gas when you buy gas. And according to Sunshine, they did not expect prices to vacillate very much. Maybe $1, $2, they said.
Between what we could offer at and what they could. But both of those are gonna be a step up, a significant step up.
So
Well-
does the populace of the town know that this is going on?
We,
I knew nothing about it till I saw the article in the paper, and there was nothing as far as public comment or concerns or anything.
Well, we had
So-
several meetings.
we posted it in a number of places. We sent out an email on our email distribution list. We posted it on Facebook. There was a whole public comment at the last meeting, which all of our meetings are on YouTube. And when Drew Lawson asked me what had been going on at the city lately, garbage was the proactive thing, one of the proactive things that I offered to him to ensure that the public knows about it. So as far as I know, I think we also just talked about putting it on the bills. I don't think we got to that, but we have discussed trying to make this as public to our citizens as we could possibly think of.
We talked about having a public hearing too.
Well, we did last meeting,
The last one before.
or the one before, yeah, the one before.
But the bottom line is the city as a whole cannot afford, cannot sustain to be in the garbage business. We are actually subsidizing that system to the point of upwards of $20,000 a year out of city money.
The people who have a dumpster are the ones that are going to see the biggest swing in the rates.
Yeah. When you make the word significant, that means double or something to me. And I don't think you're gonna see
The 96 will,
go from 27, I think, to 34 or something
No,
like that.
22 to 32 or something like that.
I'm paying 27, and they were talking about being 34 or something.
yeah, I mean, it'll be a 40% or so increase.
Depends, 20.
Yep, let me get you.
The smaller the can, the less there will be a change.
And the good news is
Right
you
now,
can,
if you have a 96, you're paying 22.
Yes.
If you have a 64, you're paying 20. A 32 is $19 a month. 1 yard dumpster, 39. 1.5 yard dumpster, 58. 2 yard dumpster, 78. And then if you are one of those people that can't get all your garbage in and you pile garbage bags on top, you're going to pay $2.75 for every bag that's above the lid. Yeah, the lid is supposed to be closed. But the dumpsters, if you have a dumpster, right now you're paying much less per cubic foot than what everybody else is. And you're liable to pay more, it's going to be based on a cubic foot of garbage, whether you get a dumpster or whether you get a 1 cubic foot. If it's 1 cubic foot, you're gonna pay for 1 cubic foot. If the dumpster is actually the equivalent of 2.5, like a 1 yard dumpster is the equivalent of 2.5 96s, you're gonna pay for like 2.5 96s for that dumpster.
It's the tipping fees over there in Lincoln County that really, they've raised their rates here a
Oh,
couple times.
substantially.
And
Yeah, the
it's-
rates have gone up everywhere.
Right.
With everything.
That's what's gonna
The
hit
city
everybody.
hasn't raised our garbage rates in 8 years.
I don't know, it's on the,
I think it's been 8
we
years.
could go through and see when the ordinance was to raise it. But, yeah, it's just a substantial cost to the city, and the city workers are the ones who deliver a can to you and pick everything else up, so.
And you just saw it or listened tonight, Sunshine is raising their rates again.
Oh, I totally understand.
So, how do we explain that to the the citizens here?
The rates are getting so high that the city can't afford to
Mhm.
do it anymore, so, we just need to know who to contact.
Not only that, but
You know,
if,
is Sunshine the only
Well,
garbage service?
they're
yes,
not, they're the only affordable. Now, over a year ago, we looked into this, and I forget the name, we looked at Adams County and Grant County.
We
There-
got bids from 3 different,
Yeah, and they were substantially higher. I mean,
Most of them wouldn't even talk about coming here. Lincoln County has a thing that the garbage you dump here has to be dumped in Lincoln County. So this truck comes to our town empty on Wednesday.
From Elmira,
Yeah.
or,
Fills
Yeah.
up, yeah, and then he comes here empty, fills up, and he leaves and doesn't pick up anything else. He goes and dumps what he picks up here at Lincoln County, which is,
I see him on the road.
yeah. And they can only dump it in Lincoln County. They can't take it from here outside of our county. And some of that's got to do with green waste and other things with this
Apple Mail.
apple maggots, which is why we still have a green waste dumpster, because you can't transport that anywhere else. So,
I mean, basically, the garbage cost gets driven by 2 factors, is that, one, where you get rid of it is
Yep.
essentially a monopoly that's locked. No matter, if we bought our own garbage truck and had Troy go and pick up the garbage cans, we'd still be paying the same tipping fees, and any service you can possibly get is gonna be beholden to that. So that's half of it. The other half of it is who picks up your can and takes it over there. And the cost of the city getting a truck and everything and then spending the man hours is prohibitive for the number of cans that we're actually servicing. So if we don't do it ourselves, it's what companies will come out, and it wasn't a great selection as far as, like, there wasn't a lot of competition to try and drive prices down.
and garbage is one of those things, honestly, only fair way to do it is if they actually weighed it. If you put 1 sack in yours, in a dumpster, on the tonnage or tipping fee, that's what you pay for. Or if you fill it up with concrete and it weighs a ton, you're gonna pay considerably more. And they do have that apparatus to put on them, but they said it was they didn't wanna mess with it, it's too cost prohibitive. But ideally, that would be the way to do it. Each customer or resident, whatever it weighs, you're paid for it. So, until that day,
the next situation is people who don't pay their water, sewer, garbage bills. And we have a fairly substantial amount of money out in that. It becomes
like the
extremely
national debt.
tough for us to get that money back.
Right, so,
And we're still paying for your garbage.
comes back to the ones not paying their bill and making it hard on the ones who.
Of course,
It just comes right back.
yeah.
And a lot of that gets taken away from our discretion because there's a lot of laws from Olympia on what you can do with a bill that touches a person's water and sewer service. So in many ways, separating that out into a non-critical service for the person gives them more utility to go after their garbage stuff and allows us to focus on the things that we can actually, because like we can't turn off water, but in certain circumstances, we can't, like, there's not a lot of teeth in us actually being, it's not just a matter of just go make the people pay. Come on, Harrington, go care about your bills. Like we've been defanged in many ways by Olympia's regulations.
Right.
During COVID, we were unable to turn off water
Yep.
or collect on bills.
Yep.
Period.
Well, if you had property, good luck filling somebody else.
Well, all of that, yeah.
Yeah.
So the only thing we can afford to do at this point in time is get out of the garbage business.
Or stop being the middleman.
Yeah, you'll still have garbage capabilities. The company still wants to pick up and make the money.
Well, I mean, that was basically my biggest concern, is like, okay, if the city's getting out of it, why would they even come out here for 2 or 3 people, or?
Oh, no, they'll still,
Yeah, you'll
everybody's
still
gotta
have it,
take
just-
care of their garbage.
We have ordinance enforcement, as you heard today, is another consideration that is a whole different discussion. But if you assume that ordinances are being enforced, we already do have an ordinance on the book that says that everyone must have. So that whoever comes to Harrington has at least a theoretical guarantee of the whole town must pay.
216
Yeah.
customers.
Plus the businesses, the school,
The park.
yeah.
250 something now? Yeah, around
Yeah.
250.
Okay, because we do have some people out of town come in.
Yep.
They're paying for stuff.
It's kind of amazing. Being in the country, we own our own 2 yard dumpsters. We were paying $52.70 when we called.
To have it dumped.
Yeah, we can
Once.
say, this month we're not full. So we don't call them for 2 months, and we call them up and say, hey, we're full. Okay, we'll come out and we, $52.70.
Yeah.
Now it's gone up to 60 something. Finally, it went up. I thought it should have probably one time ago, but.
If you're in Harrington, you can get it dumped every week for 30 some odd bucks.
That's right.
Yeah, see, so, okay.
And you can waste the gas money to drive it
We're
in.
living in Harrington, you know. You gotta have that balance between water leaks and garbage.
Well,
Gotta be a balance.
you said it earlier, everything's gone up and you're getting ribbed every way we can think of.
And there are a number of people in the surrounding community that take garbage service from Harrington that are not Harrington residents. So when the town of Harrington chooses to use our general funds to offer garbage at a cheaper rate than it costs the city to actually provide the service, we're not only subsidizing the citizens of Harrington, and because we advantage larger containers, we're also subsidizing a particular choice rather than across the board cost. But we're also subsidizing the ability for those to get money from the surrounding community that says, I'll just take my garbage into Harrington and have it taken care of there. So,
Any
Does
further
that
comments?
answer your question?
Anybody else have anything? Or we,
briefly on the text, were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Just a few other little mentions. One is that we have a new system we're testing for being able to put information out on the email distribution list and Facebook at the same time. It was kind of drawn to our attention the last time we had the water problem up by the water tower that we could have done a better job of proactively communicating, and I think one of the reasons why we didn't is while we have systems in place to notify people, the way for the office staff and the mayor and whoever is attached to efforts on the city council has not been readily accessible for them to be able to send things out quickly and reliably. So that is being improved and should hopefully make it so that we're going to see more posts on Facebook and our email distribution list to make sure that we're communicating more frequently. The other thing that I thought is notable is that now for the first time, we have a full backup of all of our email addresses. So all of our email is hosted in the cloud, but previously, if you went through and deleted all your emails, which you're not supposed to do because of the public records retention requirements, but if you went and deleted your inbox, we would not have had a way to still recover that because we didn't post those directories. But now we're backing up all of our inboxes as well. So nothing ever goes away. And that's driven off of our requirements from the state.
How much garbage can you hold?
Yeah. Right. So that's, I think to me, that's a big step forward. There have been those in the community that have commented about our records retention. So I just thought it was noteworthy to say that we are taking steps to make sure that we are very conscientious about holding all of the records that we are supposed to be holding. So.
And the only thing I'd like to say is this gentleman, you citizen in Harrington, we appreciate you coming in here, and we
Yeah.
encourage that.
Yeah, good
Any
call.
complaints or any concerns, we want to hear from the public. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
You know, we enjoy that. We
Well-
get lonely here.
Yeah, well, I've been here, 22 years, and this is the first meeting I've been to, because I did not know about the garbage until I saw the article, so I wanted more information on it. That's why I'm here.
But any concerns or anything that pops up, I mean, encourage everybody in YouTube land or whatever,
Yep.
we want to hear it. You know, that's what, you know, we don't know what the citizens are thinking about. if it's a gripe or anything. That's my 2 cents. Thank you for coming.
I'd like to bring one more thing up right now. There's a misnomer among the citizens and many of the people that everything is available online. And our city is full of things like this, which are coming here tomorrow. And this has nothing to do with digitized information. I'm not the greatest computer guy in the world, but I'll tell you, when you want to ask me a question and I got to go dig through boxes, tomorrow, the 20 or 30 boxes that have been stored in the back room or thrown in the back room by the past administrations and mayors are coming here tomorrow.
Okay.
That's where all the information is that everybody wants. And they always tell me, well, it's in a box down there. Well, those boxes are coming here. And they're gonna get gone through. I don't
Categorized.
know what we're going to do with that stuff, and we need help going through the information. I'm gonna say there's 25 or 30 boxes. But that's where supposedly all of the information that everybody's saying we have is.
Well, if it's raining tomorrow, I'll help you.
If it's raining, well, if it's raining, we're probably not doing it, but we're gonna throw them all on the one ton and bring them down here.
Better, you better.
And the one ton is not covered.
No, but I mean,
But the hoist
tip it at
works.
the front door.
I don't have a U-Haul.
Nor do I wanna walk in and out
No.
of here with 30 feet, so.
Right, but I mean, if it's
But that
too wet,
information's gonna come and it's gonna get stacked up on this wall here. And I think it behooves all of us to get involved and sort through some of the information that we're lacking, that nobody knows where it is. The boxes were stuck in there randomly, and they need to be stacked in order from dates or somehow of an alphabetical list so you can go through and find it. And then as I was showing Joe today, he was in here, I think we can probably get a good share of them in the second safe room, which is and get them out of our
Well, and
nice
the-
new facility.
I've had discussions with the landlords that if we could remove some or all of those boxes, we might want to keep some.
take
Safety
deposit.
deposit boxes?
But if we can get rid of them, they are open to that.
The safety
Yeah.
deposit boxes? Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be nice, we just get some square footage there.
I don't know what that involved. I think they could be bolted to the back wall, and I think they're pretty heavy.
Yeah,
They don't want us to take them directly to the waste transfer station. They may want them, like, we'd have to have some discussions, but they're not
Auction
They're,
them.
they're not tied to those. We can produce more room in there.
Posterity.
well, there's another door that goes into
Yeah,
another
there
little
is.
cubbyhole that we can, a lot of ceiling tiles in there now, but we can possibly put some of those boxes in there. But we need to find out what's in these boxes.
And-
That's where all this information that is supposedly at our fingertips is.
Eventually,
Digitize it or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, I think
So that
eventually
we
we
can do
take
a
sections
search.
of it, and that'll be a big storage capacity question. But we could just get it all scanned, converted.
That guy over in Olympia or Seattle or wherever it was,
Yes.
we're in the past administrations, like you said, we're in the process of it, and they said, well, where's the rest of the stuff? Where, did we pay for that, or are they still
You're
willing
talking
to?
about code publishing for the
Yes.
ordinances?
Yeah,
I think
all that.
that's only for ordinances.
But I
Yeah,
think
we're still hooked up with them, David.
Okay,
They still give us updates on our ordinances. But this is the rest of all of this stuff, and a lot of it's in boxes. These were very nice. But we're looking for Wellhead Productions. Steve Marsh has put a pretty lengthy list of information that he wanted us to gather. Well, it requires somebody going through boxes of paper.
with Lincoln, well, that's how I
Well,
understand.
and you're gonna find the 1976 emergency plan for Harrington. Probably not real relevant, then it's been updated.
How about
It's
the
probably
name?
not a whole lot of change either,
Yeah.
but,
We got those on the water system. and the Pomona pumps and
We-
motors.
We might find the fence height in there.
Huh?
Good.
Yes,
It's
you
not
can.
in our ordinances, I'll tell you that.
These
Exactly.
Freedom of Information Act requests have a very real cost.
And
And it's
that's.
the citizen's right, that's what it, fine, but they have a very real cost, and it takes us away from doing other things that the citizens expect us to be doing the business of the city. So I hope they're well-considered requests.
And they don't become overburdensome,
Yes.
you know. As far as wells and stuff, I mean, some of that stuff could be, the county health department should have some of that. I don't know what is asked, but I mean, they generally did keep a lot of records. But that's,
It's wellhead protection program that Steve Marsh was looking for. Found it. But it was from 98, and typically with anything with the state, they want you to renew and relicense and re-up every 6 months, and they want a report too, a quarterly report.
they just want money. See? Well, I'm glad you guys found it.
Yeah.
That's a good job.
So, if there's nothing further, Levi, I think it's your turn.
Move to adjourn.
Got a second?
I second.
So, we got a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
I had to get you on
Meeting's
tape.
adjourned at 9:21. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for coming.